Not everyone who walks with you is on your side. This is one of the hardest truths to accept because it challenges our instinct to associate closeness with loyalty and presence with support. We grow up believing that those who stand near us, who share our time, our laughter, our struggles, must surely want the best for us. But life teaches differently. Walking beside someone is easy. Standing with them in truth, discipline, and purpose is rare. Many people will walk with you because the path is convenient. They benefit from your energy, your consistency, your effort, or your vision. As long as the road is smooth, as long as there is something to gain, they remain close. Their smiles are easy. Their words are encouraging. The moment your pace changes, the moment your standards rise, the moment the journey demands sacrifice, their presence begins to weaken. Not because you are wrong, but because your direction no longer serves their comfort. Some walk with you to observe, not to support. They watch your discipline while avoiding it themselves. They admire your strength while resenting what it exposes in them. They listen to your goals, but secretly hope you slow down so they do not have to face their own stagnation. They will never openly oppose you, yet their silence during your hardest moments will speak louder than any words of encouragement they once offered. Not everyone who challenges you is against you, and not everyone who agrees with you is for you. Those who are truly on your side may correct you, confront you, or push you beyond what feels comfortable. Their intention is not to weaken you, but to strengthen you. Those who are not on your side often do the opposite. They affirm you when it costs nothing and disappear when it matters most. Pay attention to energy. Pay attention to patterns. Support that is real is consistent. It does not fluctuate with your success or struggle. It does not feel heavy, competitive, or draining. False alignment, on the other hand, creates confusion. You may feel unsettled without knowing why. You may feel guilt for growing or pressure to remain small. These are signals. Ignoring them is how people stay surrounded yet unsupported. There will come a time when you realize that walking alone feels lighter than walking accompanied by quiet resistance. Solitude with clarity is more powerful than company that pulls you away from your purpose. Walking alone does not mean you failed. It means you refuse to be misled. It means you chose direction over approval. Outgrowing people is not betrayal. It is a consequence of discipline. When you commit to truth, consistency, and self-mastery, not everyone can follow. Some will fall behind. Some will step away. Some will reveal that they were never walking toward the same destination to begin with. Do not waste energy trying to convince people to be on your side. Those who are aligned do not need persuasion. They show up. They act. They remain steady when circumstances change. Let others reveal themselves through their actions, not their promises. Strength is not measured by how many people walk with you, but by whether you are willing to keep walking when they do not. The path will narrow. The noise will fade. What remains will be clarity, discipline, and those few who walk not because it is easy, but because they believe in the direction you are willing to commit to, even when no one is watching, even when the road becomes difficult, even when walking with you requires them to confront themselves rather than hide behind proximity. Because in the end, not everyone who walks with you is on your side, but those who truly are will never need to prove it with words, only with presence, consistency, and the quiet strength to keep moving forward beside you without slowing your purpose or weakening your resolve. Proximity is not loyalty. This is a truth that reveals itself slowly, often through disappointment rather than instruction. Many people confuse closeness with commitment, presence with alignment, and familiarity with faithfulness. Just because someone stands near you walks beside you, or shares space in your life does not mean they are invested in your growth, your values, or your long-term well-being. Proximity is easy. Loyalty is demanding. Human beings are naturally drawn to what benefits them. Sometimes that benefit is emotional comfort, sometimes access, sometimes opportunity, and sometimes simply not being alone. Because of this, people often stay close not because they believe in who you are or what you are becoming, but because being near you serves a purpose for them. When that purpose fades, so does their commitment. This is why proximity must never be mistaken for trust. True loyalty requires sacrifice, demands consistency even when circumstances change. A loyal person remains steady when there is nothing to gain, when the road becomes uncomfortable, or when staying connected requires effort rather than convenience. Proximity, on the other hand, requires almost nothing. Anyone can stay close when things are easy, when energy is high, and when outcomes are favorable. The difference becomes clear only when pressure is applied. There are people who will sit next to you in moments of success, speak your name in rooms of opportunity, and mirror your enthusiasm when your life is moving forward. Their presence can feel affirming, even supportive. But the test of loyalty is not how someone behaves when you are rising, it is how they behave when you are struggling, changing, or outgrowing familiar patterns. When your priorities shift and your standards increase, proximity without loyalty begins to show cracks. Lack of loyalty is rarely loud. It is subtle. It appears as inconsistency, quiet withdrawal, or passive resistance. It may come in the form of encouragement that lacks substance, advice that subtly steers you away from growth, or silence when support is most needed. These signs are often ignored because the person is still physically present, still reachable, part of the routine. But loyalty is not measured by location or history, it is measured by intention and action. Many people fear acknowledging this truth because it forces them to reevaluate relationships they have invested in emotionally. Accepting that someone close is not loyal can feel like loss, but clarity is not cruelty. Awareness is not bitterness. It is an act of self-respect to recognize that not everyone who stays near you is meant to walk the entire journey with you. Proximity can also create a false sense of security. Familiar faces can make us lower our guard, assuming shared experiences guarantee shared values. But values are revealed in decisions, not conversations. Two people can share memories, laughter, and time, yet stand on opposite sides when integrity, discipline, or truth are required. Loyalty aligns with principles, not just people. It is important to understand that disloyalty does not always come from malice. Sometimes people are simply loyal to comfort, to familiarity, or to the version of you that required less from them. When you change, when you demand more from yourself, when you become disciplined or focused, those who were only comfortable with your former self may remain close physically but disconnected in spirit. They do not oppose you directly, but they do not walk in the same direction. Observing this requires emotional maturity. Not every lack of loyalty needs confrontation. Not every realization needs explanation. Often, the wisest response is adjustment. You change how much access someone has to you. You change how much weight their opinions carry. You stop expecting depth where only surface level connection exists. Loyalty is proven in moments of tension, when truth needs to be spoken, when discipline needs to be respected, when support costs time, energy, or personal comfort. Those who are loyal may challenge you, but their challenge aims to strengthen, not weaken. Those who are merely close may agree outwardly while inwardly resisting your growth. Learning this distinction sharpens discernment, teaches you to value actions over words, patterns over promises. It encourages you to build relationships based on shared direction rather than shared history. It also prepares you for solitude, because once you see clearly, you may find that fewer people are truly aligned with your path. Solitude, however, is not something to fear. It is often the space where clarity develops. Walking without false support is lighter than walking with hidden resistance. When you stop confusing proximity with loyalty, you free yourself from unnecessary expectations. You no longer seek validation from those who are only passing through your life. You invest instead in those who demonstrate steadiness through action. This understanding also invites self-reflection. Just as you evaluate others, you must evaluate yourself. Are you loyal to your own values or merely close to them when convenient? Do you stay committed to your goals when enthusiasm fades or only when motivation is high? Loyalty begins internally before it can be recognized externally. Proximity will always exist. People will come and go, stand near and drift away. Loyalty, however, remains rare and unmistakable. It does not need to announce itself. It is seen in consistency, integrity, and quiet presence during difficult moments. When you learn to separate the two, you stop being surprised by betrayal and start being guided by awareness, understanding that closeness without alignment is simply distance disguised as familiarity, and that the discipline to recognize this truth is what protects your path as you continue walking forward with a clearer mind and a stronger sense of direction, while those who were only near begin to fall behind, revealing that what once felt like unity was only shared space and time rather than shared purpose and commitment to the same inner standard and the same long road that demands patience, resilience, and an unwavering sense of responsibility to what truly matters rather than to who merely happens to be standing close at the moment when the journey continues to demand more than comfort is willing to give. Silence reveals more than words because words are often crafted, controlled, and shaped to create an impression, while silence exposes what lies beneath intention. People speak to persuade, to defend, to impress, or to hide. Silence, however, has no disguise, appears when effort stops, when pressure rises, and when there is nothing to gain from performance. In these moments, silence becomes a mirror reflecting true priorities, emotions, and character. When someone cares deeply, their silence feels different. It is attentive, grounded, and present. When someone is indifferent or conflicted, their silence becomes distant, evasive, or heavy. The absence of words in critical moments speaks loudly about where a person stands. Support is not proven by speeches during calm times, by presence during difficulty. When challenges arise and words disappear, what remains tells the real story. Words are easy to offer when there is no cost. Promises flow freely when outcomes are uncertain and responsibility feels abstract. But when action is required, when alignment demands effort, many voices grow quiet. This silence is not accidental. It reveals hesitation, fear, or lack of commitment. The quiet withdrawal during moments that require courage is more honest than any declaration of loyalty spoken in comfort. Silence also exposes discomfort with truth. When difficult conversations arise, some choose silence not as wisdom, but as avoidance. They withdraw rather than confront, hoping distance will resolve what clarity could address. This kind of silence reveals an inability to stand firm in honesty. It shows where emotional maturity ends and self-protection begins. The refusal to speak when integrity is tested is itself a statement. In relationships, silence often appears before separation. Words fade long before people leave. Engagement decreases, questions go unanswered, and energy shifts. Absence of communication becomes a signal that connection is weakening. Those who pay attention understand that silence is not emptiness, it is information. It indicates where attention has moved and where interest has declined. There is also silence that appears when someone benefits from your presence, but not your growth. When you begin to change, to refine your discipline, or to move toward higher standards, encouragement may disappear. Quiet resistance to your progress reveals itself through a lack of response rather than direct opposition. Silence becomes a form of disagreement that avoids accountability. Observing silence requires patience. Many misinterpret it, filling the gap with assumptions or self-doubt. But disciplined awareness does not rush to conclusions. It watches patterns. One moment of silence means little. Repeated silence in moments that matter speaks clearly. Patterns reveal intention more reliably than isolated words or gestures. Silence also reveals inner conflict. When someone wants to support you but lacks the strength or clarity to do so, their silence exposes their struggle. They may admire your direction but fear their own inadequacy. Instead of speaking honestly, they remain quiet. This silence is not always hostile. It still shows limitation. It marks the boundary of what someone is capable of offering. There is a difference between mindful silence and passive silence. Mindful silence is intentional. It creates space for understanding and reflection. Passive silence avoids responsibility. It allows situations to decay rather than develop. Learning to distinguish between the two is essential. One builds depth, the other erodes trust. Silence also tests your own stability. Running through the park when others do not respond, do you remain centered or do you seek validation through noise? Many people talk excessively to escape discomfort. Fill silence with explanations, justifications, and emotional reactions. But silence invites self-control. It challenges you to remain grounded without external reassurance. In leadership and personal growth, silence reveals who is truly listening. Those who are aligned do not need constant instruction or affirmation. They act quietly, consistently, without drawing attention to themselves. Their silence is not absence, but focus. In contrast, those who speak loudly often require recognition to sustain their involvement. When recognition fades, so does their voice. Silence can also expose dishonesty. When questions are asked and answers are delayed or avoided, the lack of response reveals uncertainty or deception. Truth does not always need elaboration, but it does not hide. Silence in the face of accountability often reveals more than any excuse ever could. At times, silence is used as control. Withholding communication can be a way to manipulate, to create anxiety, or to assert power. This form of silence is calculated. It seeks reaction rather than resolution. Recognizing this prevents emotional entanglement. You learn not to chase clarity from those who use silence as a weapon. There is also silence that arrives when respect is lost. When someone no longer values your presence, their effort to engage diminishes. They may remain physically near, but mentally absent. Silence reflects detachment. This realization can be painful, but it is also liberating. It removes illusion and replaces it with understanding. Silence reveals where energy flows. People speak passionately about what matters to them. When something loses importance, words disappear. Attention moves elsewhere. Silence marks that transition. Accepting this truth allows you to redirect your own energy toward those who respond with presence rather than absence. Finally, silence reveals your own strength. When you stop needing constant explanation, defense, or approval, silence becomes comfortable. You no longer fear it. You use it to observe, to refine, and to choose wisely. In this state, silence is no longer something imposed by others, something you command, allowing clarity to rise above noise, revealing truth without effort, showing alignment without persuasion, and making it impossible for false words to hide behind sound. Because what remains unspoken continues to communicate exactly what needs to be understood without needing permission, reaction, or acknowledgement from anyone who is unwilling or unable to stand clearly where their words once tried to be. Silence reveals more than words, because words are often designed to shape perception rather than express truth. People speak to be accepted, to avoid conflict, to appear loyal, or to protect their image. Speech can be rehearsed, softened, exaggerated, or completely false. Silence cannot perform in the same way. It emerges naturally when intention is exposed and effort is no longer applied. In moments where words retreat, reality steps forward. When pressure enters a situation, speech usually changes first. Promises become shorter, explanations become vague, and enthusiasm weakens. Eventually, words disappear altogether. This disappearance is not random. It reveals limits. It shows where interest ends, where courage fades, and where commitment was never strong enough to survive discomfort. Silence under pressure speaks clearly about priorities. People often say the right things when nothing is at stake. Support, encouragement, and agreement flow easily when there is no cost attached. But when action is required, when time, effort, or risk must be invested, silence becomes common. This silence exposes the difference between verbal alignment and genuine involvement. Those who were only present for comfort fade when responsibility appears. Silence also exposes fear. Many remain quiet, not because they lack thoughts, but because speaking would require accountability. Silence becomes a shield to avoid being seen, judged, or challenged. Instead of choosing honesty, they choose disappearance. This choice reveals emotional immaturity more clearly than any careless statement ever could. In relationships, silence often arrives before truth. Distance grows quietly before it becomes visible. Conversations shorten, responses slow, and presence weakens. Absence of engagement speaks louder than confrontation. Those who observe carefully understand that silence is not emptiness. It is communication stripped of decoration. Silence reveals resistance to growth. When someone benefits from your consistency but feels threatened by your progress, their words change. Encouragement fades. Curiosity disappears. What remains is quiet withdrawal. This silence is not neutrality. It is discomfort that lacks the strength to speak honestly. It reveals misalignment without needing conflict. Patterns of silence matter more than isolated moments. Everyone becomes quiet occasionally. Fatigue, reflection, or stress can create temporary silence. But repeated silence during moments that require clarity reveals intention. When questions go unanswered again and again, when support disappears at critical times, silence stops being coincidence and becomes direction. Silence can also reveal admiration mixed with insecurity. Some people grow quiet when confronted with someone else's discipline or progress because it highlights their own stagnation. Instead of expressing respect or asking for guidance, they withdraw. Their silence reveals an internal struggle rather than external opposition. It still marks a limit in connection. There is a silence that comes from awareness and a silence that comes from avoidance. Awareness-based silence is calm and grounded. It creates space. Avoidance-based silence is tense and evasive. It avoids resolution and allows decay. Learning to recognize the difference protects clarity and prevents emotional confusion. Silence tests emotional independence. When responses are absent, many people feel the urge to over-explain, chase reassurance, or fill the space with noise. This reaction reveals dependence on external validation. Strength appears when silence no longer destabilizes you. When you can remain steady without answers, silence becomes information rather than threat. In leadership and discipline, silence often reveals who is reliable. Those who are committed do not require constant reminders or praise. They move quietly, consistently, without announcement. Their silence is focused. In contrast, Those who rely on recognition speak often but act inconsistently. When attention fades, their voice fades too. Silence exposes dishonesty more effectively than interrogation. When accountability is introduced and silence follows, truth has already answered. Evasion requires quiet. Deception depends on delay. Silence in these moments communicates uncertainty, fear, or guilt without needing confession. There is also silence used as control. Withholding communication can be a tactic to provoke reaction, to create doubt, or to assert dominance. This silence feels heavy and intentional. Recognizing it prevents emotional manipulation. You stop seeking clarity from someone who uses absence as leverage. Silence reveals respect or lack of it. When someone values you, they make effort to respond, to engage, to acknowledge. When respect diminishes, effort follows. Silence fills the space where intention once lived. Accepting this truth allows you to stop investing energy where it is no longer returned. Silence shows where energy flows. People speak about what matters to them. When something no longer matters, words dry up. Attention moves elsewhere. Silence marks that shift. Awareness of this helps you redirect your focus toward those who meet presence with presence. Silence also reveals your own discipline. When you stop reacting impulsively, silence becomes a tool rather than a gap. You listen more. You observe patterns. You respond with intention instead of emotion. In this state, silence becomes clarity rather than confusion. Ultimately, silence removes illusion. Without words to distract, exaggerate, or comfort, truth stands exposed. Silence strips away performance and leaves only alignment, intention, and capacity. Those who understand this stop chasing explanations and start trusting observation, allowing silence to teach what words were never capable of expressing, showing where people truly stand without argument, justification, or persuasion, revealing reality in its most honest form while requiring nothing from you except the patience to see it and the strength to accept what it shows without needing it to be softened or explained. Different paths, same road is a reality many people overlook because physical closeness often creates the illusion of shared direction. Walking beside someone can feel like unity, but movement alone does not define alignment. Two people can travel the same road for a period of time while aiming for entirely different destinations. The road is shared, but the purpose is not. This difference becomes clear only when decisions must be made, sacrifices are required, and direction demands commitment. In the early stages of any journey, paths overlap naturally. Convenience, circumstance, and opportunity bring people together. Shared environments create shared routines. This closeness can feel meaningful, even purposeful. Familiarity should never be confused with intention. Many walk the same road because it is available, not because it leads where they truly want to go. As time passes, divergence begins quietly. One person becomes disciplined, focused on long-term growth. Another remains attached to comfort, immediate reward, or external approval. Both continue moving forward. Their reasons for moving are no longer aligned. The road remains the same, yet their paths within it begin to separate. Separation is subtle at first, often unnoticed until resistance appears. Resistance is the signal. When your pace changes, when your priorities shift, when your standards rise, those on a different path begin to feel discomfort. They may question your choices, minimize your efforts, or attempt to slow your progress. Not because the road is wrong, but because your direction no longer matches theirs. What once felt like companionship begins to feel like friction. Some people stay on the same road out of habit. Familiarity becomes a substitute for purpose. They know the surroundings, the routines, the expectations. Changing paths would require courage and uncertainty. So they continue walking even if the road no longer challenges or fulfills them. When they see someone else choosing depth over ease, it can create quiet tension. Others remain on the same road for advantage. Access, connection, or proximity to progress can be useful. They walk alongside effort without embracing discipline. They observe growth without committing to it. As long as the road benefits them, they remain present. But their path is self-serving, not shared. Different paths reveal themselves through decisions. When faced with difficulty, one person leans into discipline while another seeks escape. When faced with truth, one accepts responsibility while another deflects. When faced with growth, one embraces discomfort while another resists. These choices expose direction more clearly than any conversation ever could. It is important to understand that divergence is not betrayal. It is natural. People evolve at different rates with different capacities and desires. Expecting everyone on the same road to share your destination is unrealistic. Awareness allows you to accept separation without resentment. Not everyone is meant to arrive where you are going. Conflict often arises when one person assumes shared direction without confirmation. Silence, frustration, and disappointment follow when expectations are not met. Clarity would prevent this, but clarity requires honesty. Honesty requires strength. Many avoid it, allowing distance to grow quietly instead. Different paths can coexist peacefully when there is mutual respect. Problems arise when one path attempts to control the other. When someone tries to pull you toward comfort while you move toward discipline. Tension becomes inevitable. Growth demands separation from what no longer aligns. There are moments when walking alone becomes necessary. This does not mean the road is empty. It means your path within it has narrowed. Solitude is often the price of precision. The more defined your direction becomes, the fewer people can walk it with you. Observation is essential. Watch actions, not claims. People often speak of shared goals, but their behavior reveals otherwise. Direction is demonstrated through consistency. Those on the same path move with similar rhythm, not identical speed, but aligned intention. Letting go of those on different paths requires maturity. There is no need for confrontation or blame. Distance created by direction does not need justification. Alignment cannot be forced. Those who truly share your path will naturally keep pace, adjusting when needed without resentment. Different paths on the same road also teach humility. Just because someone is not aligned with you does not mean they are wrong. Their destination may simply be different. Respecting this prevents arrogance and unnecessary conflict. You do not need to convince others to follow your path to validate it. As the journey continues, the road becomes more demanding. Casual walkers fall away. Those unwilling to endure discomfort choose easier roads. What remains are those who have clarity about where they are going. The road does not change, but the company does. Eventually, the illusion of sameness fades. You stop assuming alignment based on proximity. You recognize that shared space does not guarantee shared purpose. This awareness sharpens discernment and protects focus. You walk with intention rather than expectation. Different paths, same road is not a warning, but a reality to be understood. It teaches patience, awareness, and self-responsibility. It reminds you to walk your path fully without dragging others or slowing yourself to maintain false unity. Understanding that direction determines destiny more than distance traveled, and that those meant to walk with you will do so not because the road is shared, because the path within it resonates with who they are becoming and what they are willing to sacrifice to reach a destination that demands more than convenience, comfort, or familiarity. Energy never lies because it exists before words, before explanations, and before intention is filtered through thought. It is present the moment someone enters a space, long before they speak or act. While words can be chosen and behavior can be controlled, Energy reveals the internal state that cannot be fully hidden. It communicates through tone, presence, attention, and absence. Whether people are aware of it or not, their energy constantly expresses who they are and where they stand. Every interaction carries an exchange of energy. Some interactions leave you calm, focused, and grounded. Others leave you drained, unsettled, or tense without any obvious reason. This response is not random. It is your awareness responding to alignment or misalignment. When energy is genuine, it feels stable. When it is conflicted, it feels inconsistent. When it is false, it feels heavy or confusing. People often trust words over energy because words feel concrete. They can be remembered, repeated, and analyzed. Energy is more subtle. It requires presence to notice and honesty to accept. Ignoring energy often leads to confusion because it creates a gap between what is said and what is felt. This gap is where doubt forms. Energy fills that gap with clarity if you allow it. When someone supports you sincerely, their energy feels steady. It does not fluctuate based on convenience. There is no pressure, no tension, no unspoken competition. Their presence feels open. In contrast, when someone's support is conditional, their energy shifts. There may be encouragement, but it feels forced. There may be praise, but it lacks warmth. These signals are easy to dismiss, yet they are accurate. Energy reveals intention more clearly than action alone. A person can perform the right actions while carrying resentment, jealousy, or self-interest. Their behavior may appear supportive. Their energy contradicts it. Over time, this contradiction creates friction. You may not immediately understand why something feels off. Your awareness registers it long before your mind does. Energy is especially revealing in silence. When words stop, energy remains. In quiet moments, tension becomes noticeable. Comfort becomes obvious. Indifference becomes clear. Silence strips away performance and leaves only presence. This is why some silences feel peaceful while others feel uncomfortable. Difference lies in the energy being carried, not in the absence of sound. Emotional reactions are often responses to energy rather than events. You may feel uneasy around someone even when nothing negative has occurred. This discomfort is not irrational. It is perception. Your system is recognizing inconsistency between what is presented and what is felt. Trusting this perception requires self-confidence and discipline. Doubting it leads to repeated confusion. Energy also exposes alignment over time. People who are aligned with your growth do not feel threatened by your progress. Their energy remains supportive even as you change. Those who are misaligned may smile and speak positively. Their energy tightens as you advance. The shift is subtle but consistent. Resistance appears without words. There is also energy that seeks to consume rather than support. Some people draw strength from attention, validation, or control. Presence feels draining because it demands constant output from you. This is not always intentional. Often it is unconscious. Still, the effect is real. Energy reveals where balance is lacking. Your own energy plays a role as well. When you are unfocused, reactive, or insecure, your energy becomes unstable. This instability attracts confusion and misalignment. When you are grounded and disciplined, your energy becomes clear. Clarity repels what does not belong and attracts what aligns. Energy responds to energy. Consistency is a key indicator. Words change, moods fluctuate, circumstances shift, but core energy remains stable. Someone who is genuine may have bad days, but their underlying presence stays intact. Someone who is false may appear pleasant at times. Their energy lacks continuity. Over time, this inconsistency becomes impossible to ignore. Energy also reveals respect. When someone values you, their energy is attentive. They listen fully. They are present without distraction. When respect fades, energy withdraws even if politeness remains. Engagement weakens. Interest declines. These changes often happen before behavior visibly shifts. Learning to read energy requires stillness. Noise distracts perception. Constant talking, overthinking, and emotional reactions cloud awareness. When you slow down and observe, energy becomes obvious. You begin to notice who feels heavy, who feels light, who feels steady, and who feels chaotic. Energy never lies because it does not need to convince. It does not argue. It simply is. You may try to rationalize it away, but repeated exposure confirms it. Those who ignore energy often find themselves betrayed by people they trusted based on words alone. Those who respect it navigate relationships with greater clarity. This awareness does not mean becoming suspicious or closed. It means becoming discerning. You do not accuse. You observe. You adjust your boundaries quietly. You allow people to reveal themselves without resistance. Energy also reveals your direction. When you move toward what aligns with you, your energy expands. You feel clear, strong, and focused. When you move away from alignment, your energy contracts. Fatigue increases. Confusion grows. This internal feedback is constant and reliable. Ultimately, energy is truth expressed without language, bypasses logic and speaks directly to awareness. When you learn to trust it, you stop forcing connections, explaining yourself unnecessarily, and stop ignoring discomfort. You move with clarity rather than hope, allowing energy to guide you through relationships, decisions, and environments with precision, revealing alignment, intention, and reality without ever needing words to make its message clearer than it already is. Mastery before trust is a principle that protects clarity, stability, and direction. Trust is often given too early, shaped by emotion, desire for connection, or the comfort of familiarity. Without self-mastery, trust becomes reactive rather than intentional. It is offered based on feeling rather than observation. When self-control is absent, expectations are formed without foundation, and disappointment becomes inevitable. Self-mastery begins with awareness. Knowing your own patterns, weaknesses, fears, and emotional triggers is essential before placing confidence in others. When you do not understand yourself, you project responsibility outward. You expect others to provide stability, validation, or direction that you have not yet developed internally. This creates dependence rather than connection. Without self-mastery, trust becomes blind. You believe words too quickly. You ignore inconsistencies. You excuse behavior that disrupts your peace. This is not kindness, it is lack of discipline. Trust requires discernment, and discernment requires emotional regulation. When emotions lead, judgment follows them into confusion. Mastering yourself means learning to pause before reacting. It means not needing immediate reassurance or approval. When you can remain calm in uncertainty, you stop forcing clarity from others. This calmness allows people to reveal themselves naturally. Trust built on observation is stronger than trust built on urgency. Many betrayals are not the result of deception, but of premature trust. People show who they are through patterns over time. Self-mastery allows you to wait. It allows you to watch behavior without needing it to confirm your hopes. When you are grounded, you do not rush intimacy, loyalty, or commitment. Mastery also requires honesty with yourself. If you are inconsistent, emotionally unstable, or easily influenced, you cannot expect stability from others. Trust is mutual responsibility. You must be trustworthy to yourself before expecting it from anyone else. This includes honoring your values, boundaries, and commitments even when no one is watching. When self-mastery is lacking, trust often becomes transactional. You trust because you want something in return: companionship, security, validation, or relief from loneliness. This creates imbalance. True trust is not a bargain. It is a recognition of alignment. Self-mastery removes need from the equation, allowing trust to form from clarity rather than desire. Discipline strengthens perception. When you are disciplined in your habits, speech, and decisions, you become sensitive to inconsistency in others. Not in a judgmental way, but in an observant way. You notice when words and actions do not align. You notice when energy shifts. Without discipline, these signals are ignored. Self-mastery also teaches restraint. You do not share everything too quickly. You do not reveal vulnerabilities to those who have not demonstrated responsibility. This is not secrecy. It is wisdom. It's not about exposure. It is about safety. Safety is earned through consistency. Many people confuse openness with strength. True strength is control. Self-mastery allows openness without recklessness. You can be honest without being unguarded. You can be kind without being naive. This balance protects you from unnecessary disappointment. Trust placed before self-mastery often leads to resentment. When expectations are unmet, frustration arises. You blame others for failing you when the failure was in judgment, not character. Self-mastery accepts responsibility for where trust is placed. It removes blame and replaces it with learning. Self-mastery also stabilizes relationships. When you are centered, you do not demand reassurance. You do not test loyalty. You do not seek proof constantly. This creates space for genuine trust to grow. People feel less pressure to perform and more freedom to be authentic. Those who lack self-mastery often trust extremes, either trust too easily or not at all. Both are reactions driven by fear. Discipline creates balance. You neither close yourself off nor expose yourself carelessly. You allow trust to develop gradually, supported by evidence. Mastery before trust also applies internally. You must trust yourself to act with integrity before trusting others to do the same. When you betray your own values, you weaken your ability to judge character. Consistency within creates clarity without. Time is an ally of self-mastery. Rushing trust shortens the process of understanding. Patience allows reality to surface. People cannot maintain false consistency indefinitely. Self-mastery gives you the patience to let truth appear without pressure. Boundaries are a product of self-mastery. Without boundaries, trust becomes meaningless. When everything is allowed, nothing is protected. Boundaries define where trust is appropriate and where distance is necessary. They are not walls, but filters. Self-mastery also removes fear of solitude. When you are comfortable alone, you do not cling to connection. You choose relationships rather than needing them. This choice creates healthier trust because it is not driven by fear of loss. Trust formed after self-mastery is quieter. It does not announce itself. It does not demand proof. It exists in consistency, respect, and mutual discipline. It is not shaken by small mistakes, nor is it blind to repeated patterns. Ultimately, self-mastery is the foundation upon which trust stands. Without it, trust collapses under emotion, expectation, and illusion. With it, trust becomes selective, stable, and resilient, allowing relationships to form with clarity rather than desperation, strength rather than dependence, and awareness rather than hope, ensuring that trust is not something given blindly, but something cultivated through discipline, observation, and respect for both yourself and those who earn a place in your inner circle. Walking alone is better than walking misled, because direction matters more than company. Many people fear solitude more than confusion, choosing to follow voices, crowds, or familiar faces rather than trusting their own awareness. This fear leads them to surrender judgment in exchange for belonging. Yet belonging without clarity comes at a high cost. When you walk misled, every step takes you further from your true path, no matter how many people walk beside you. Being misled does not always look like obvious deception. Often it appears as subtle influence, quiet pressure, or shared assumptions that go unquestioned. You adopt beliefs, habits, and priorities that are not your own simply because they are normalized around you. Over time, this erosion of self-direction weakens confidence. You may feel busy, surrounded and supported, yet internally lost. Walking alone forces responsibility. There is no one else to blame for your pace or your direction. This responsibility can feel heavy at first, especially for those accustomed to guidance or approval. But within this weight lies strength. When you choose your own steps, each movement builds self-trust. You learn to listen inwardly rather than outwardly. Misleading paths often promise comfort. They offer reassurance, shortcuts, and validation. They tell you what you want to hear rather than what you need to face. Walking alone offers no such illusions. It confronts you with silence, uncertainty, and self-doubt. But these challenges sharpen clarity. They remove distraction and force honesty. There is a difference between guidance and control. True guidance strengthens independence. Control weakens it. When you walk misled, you are often guided by those who benefit from your obedience, not your growth. Their direction serves their needs, not your potential. Walking alone removes this influence, allowing you to rediscover your own standards. Solitude reveals truth. Without constant input from others, your thoughts become clearer. You begin to recognize which beliefs are inherited and which are chosen. This process can be uncomfortable. Letting go of borrowed identity feels like loss, but what emerges is authenticity. Walking alone does not mean rejecting all connection. It means refusing false alignment. It means choosing integrity over approval. Many people remain in misleading paths because leaving would disrupt relationships. They sacrifice direction to preserve comfort. But comfort built on misalignment creates long-term dissatisfaction. Those who walk misled often defend the path aggressively, threatens the structure they rely on. In contrast, those who walk alone develop quiet confidence. They do not need to convince others. Their certainty comes from alignment, not agreement. There are moments when misleading paths appear successful. They may be crowded, celebrated, and validated by society. Walking alone may look like failure from the outside. Progress may be slow. Recognition may be absent. External validation is a poor measure of internal truth. Walking alone builds resilience. Without constant reassurance, you learn to endure uncertainty. You adapt. You refine your direction through experience rather than instruction. This resilience cannot be taught. It is earned through solitude. Misleading paths often discourage questioning. They reward conformity. Walking alone encourages curiosity. You question assumptions. You test beliefs. You adjust course when necessary. This flexibility protects you from stagnation. Fear often keeps people from walking alone. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being judged. Fear of being forgotten. But fear is a poor guide. It reacts to imagined outcomes rather than present reality. Walking alone teaches you to act despite fear. There is also clarity in pace. When walking misled, you are often rushed or slowed by others' agendas. Alone you move according to understanding. Sometimes this means slowing down to observe. Sometimes it means accelerating without needing consensus. Walking alone strengthens discernment. You become more aware of influence. You recognize manipulation, projection, and distraction more easily. This awareness makes future connections healthier. You no longer follow blindly. You choose consciously. Loneliness may arise, but loneliness is not emptiness. It is space. Space allows growth. In this space, you confront your limits and expand them. You discover strengths that were dormant under guidance. Misleading paths often blur accountability. Responsibility is shared, diluted, or avoided. Walking alone removes excuses. Each outcome reflects your choices. This accountability sharpens discipline. Those who walk alone often become quiet leaders, not because they seek influence, but because clarity attracts attention. Others sense the stability and depth that solitude has cultivated. Leadership emerges naturally from self-trust. Walking alone also teaches compassion. When you stop needing others to validate your path, you stop needing to invalidate theirs. You allow people to walk their own roads without judgment. Eventually, you may find companions again. These connections are different. They are based on shared direction, not fear of solitude. You walk together by choice, not dependence. Walking alone is not a rejection of others, but an affirmation of truth. It is the willingness to stand in uncertainty rather than hide in false certainty. It is the courage to listen inwardly when external voices are loud. It is the discipline to move forward without guarantees, trusting alignment over approval, clarity over comfort, running through the park and integrity over illusion, while allowing each step to be guided by awareness rather than assumption, ensuring that even in solitude the journey remains honest, intentional, and rooted in a direction that is chosen rather than inherited or imposed.